Legend has always been my project that there were no restraints. I can do whatever I want. But even in the early years, we were still trying to lay the foundation for the band and make sure that we, it's sad to say, but to make sure that other people were happy with what we were putting out. Now it's such an open project, bringing in friends and so many different writers, guitar players and producers. It's, hey, what do you want to do? I want to do a song like this. Okay, let's do that.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope you've had a glorious week. It's Friday, people. We did it. The weekend is here. I'm so stoked because tomorrow at Kanawaki Brewing Company, they are launching Cold Haze Warm Blood, the brand new Cryptopsy collab, which was brewed as a part of Brutal North America. I'm so excited to taste this double NEIPA with blood orange, 8.5% ABV. It's gonna be so delicious. Super stoked to announce that I have teamed up with Indie Merch Store for the official Vox and Hops merchandise store. You can go to my website, voxandhops.com. That's voxandhops.com/merch. And you will be taken to my official store where there's a bunch of sick merch available. If you use the promo code VOXHOPS10, that's VOXHOPS 10, you will save 10% off of your entire purchase. Do it, people. This is a great way to help support the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I'm also asking you to tell a friend about the podcast. If you have a friend that enjoys metal and craft beer, well, suggest that they check out the podcast. That would be something that I would truly, truly appreciate. You can tell them that there are 280 episodes available on their favorite podcast platform for them to go and check out. Now, in today's episode, I'm with Chad Ruhlig of Legend and For the Fallen Dreams. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops episode number 282.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm with Chad Ruhlig of Legend and For the Fallen Dreams. Chad, I'm very, very stoked to be with you. Let's start with a very simple, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Matt. Thanks for having me, brother.
I'm stoked to be with you. Let's dive deep. Let's go to the darkness right away. I like to get it out of the way right away. How did you cope with the glorious year of 2020, which is now behind us?
I'd spoke on this before, but 2020 for me, I'm obviously, with all the craziness aside, for me, musically was a great year. It was a great year to reflect on where I was going and what I wanted to do with all music going forward, and just kind of dig back into the the creative process of why I've done this for as long as I have in the first place. So from an artistic side, 2020 was great. I'm sure that's not what most people are thinking, but for me, it was a really good moment to just dissect a lot, man. So I. In that aspect of it, it was great. Obviously, all the other craziness aside, it was stressful in its own ways. But yeah, it was one step at a time, day by day, and that's kind of, I think, how everybody got through it. And it was the same. Musically, it was rad though.
It's sort of like almost a blessing for us musicians, because we can never stop, because if the ball is just continually rolling, and if we do stop, it's us making taking the decision to stop. So then we feel guilty because maybe our other bandmates aren't on that same train and don't need that break that we need. So this year really sort of gave us the blessing to have to stop, so that we could have that time to reflect on why are we musicians? Why do we still do this after so many years? It's interesting.
That's a great way to put it, man, because when things are rolling, it's few and far between where you get that chance to kind of just sit and be like, so why am I, do I still love to do this? Why do I do this? Man, just digging into all the little, reasons of who, what, where, why, and when, you really don't get that a lot. So it was almost too much at times, because there was times where I was just like, holy shit, like when you sit back and really dig and think about what's going on musically, or what you've been doing for, or what I've been doing, and I'm sure you have as well, well over a decade. It's crazy to think about. So it was a good reflecting time for sure.
Absolutely. And when we're in the heat of it, it's always one project to the next, one tour to the next, one album to the next, and to have everything just stop, it really just, we had that breathing moment. It's obviously been too much breathing moment at this time.
Yeah.
But to have a whole summer at home where I could be with my kids, and it wasn't me telling the band, I don't want to tour right now, which I have done when my kids were born. I feel guilty about that. The momentum of the band, what's going to happen. So it's a strange little blessing in disguise right there.
For sure. I agree 100%, man.
Interesting. Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about life and metal, and of course about craft beer. You told me right before we started this that you're not drinking a craft beer, but what are you drinking right there, Chad?
I'm drinking. I got super fancy this year, and we brought a espresso machine. So I'm drinking one of the cool little futuristic coffee capsules. I got spoiled with that. So now I drink regular coffee. I'm like, it just doesn't work anymore. But this does the trick, man. Yeah, it's been a long day, so coffee was the choice today. But yeah.
I only drink three things. I drink water, coffee, and craft beer. That's
yeah. What do you got?
This is Cinque Battles de Moines. This is a classic Helles, a German style Helles. Cool. I love this brewery. They were rated, I think, top 5, I want to say, or top 3. I apologize to the crew from Cinque Battle. Best new brewery from ratebeer.com this year. They started last year, and they're just killing it. No matter what style, they're killing it on the hazies. They're killing it on stouts, barrel-aged stouts. They're killing it on these classic crushers. Yeah. I love it. While I'm pouring this out, Chad, tell me about your very first beer. Do you remember the first beer you've ever had?
Oh, I do, and it's not a pretty one, but we had it. I was straight edge for a very long time through my teens. So I didn't drink till I was like 22. I had my first beer, and it was just the changing of tides kind of thing. And my buddies had my buddies were drinking a couple of Busch Lights. So it's technically water, but we made it work. And and again, like now I've the older I've got a little more taste for it. I love Guinness and stouts. It's usually my go-to. I'm sure you're familiar with like Dragon's Milk. That's another one that we always have here in the States and Michigan. So I'll sip on those from time to time. But if I'm gonna drink a beer, it's usually a stout or a Guinness.
Killer. I got keep going. Sorry.
I went over to Ireland probably in 2016. FTFD did a tour over there, and that's the first time I had actually had Guinness, like from the belly of the beast in Ireland. It's so funny to have it there and then have it in the States, because more than half the people don't know how to pour a stout. So it was rad though. So
you have to be patient.
Very patient. Yes, sir.
I've said this on the podcast before, but I played in Dublin, and we wanted to go get a proper Guinness pour, and the venue for some reason sent us across the street, and it ended up being a Czech bar in Dublin, which makes no sense.
Right.
So we got the Guinnesses, but I'm still not certain that it was an absolutely perfect, honest, true Irish pour. But
I get it, man.
Good time. There was a bunch of Cause Ale beer everywhere.
Yeah,
it was.
it was more of like the novelty attraction to bring people in, But
it was Slovakian bar. Sorry, not Czech. It was because Cause Ale, that beer with the goat on it that they give us all the time on tour.
Yes, sir. That is funny. Well, hey, man, that's now it's on the bucket list to head back and make it a point to hit a good old Irish pub and have yourself there you go.
Proper pour.
Yeah, a proper pour.
Talk to me about those years being straight edge. I've had a few sober guests on the podcast. I've had a few people that were straight edge for a moment and have subsequently switched. Talk to me about that period of your life.
It was I was really big into the whole culture of the hardcore and metalcore, maybe even the metal world when I was much younger. So I guess that was something that I found it wasn't just music to me. It was kind of like, oh, there's a whole backstory to this, and like bands like Minor Threat and all that. And you started digging into it. I guess it gave it a little more substance for me. And as a kid, just being a little more impressionable, my friends were, and much respect to everybody who still is and still is able to hang on. But just like I said before, the changing of tides, man. Just you change a different palette as you get older. Your mental state and everything. Everything changes a little bit as you get older. So it just wasn't for me. Yeah, but it was a nice sobering experience through my teens, I guess. I don't have any cool stories about getting like pissed drunk at prom or anything like that, but
you're not missing anything, Chad. we don't remember what happened anyways.
Yeah, right on.
Let's talk about you when you were young, the soundtrack of your youth, growing up in your parents' or guardians' house. What music was playing when you were not in control of the music? What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
My dad was a huge Beastie Boys fan, so he was always jamming Beastie Boys and Run DMC. He would jam some Metallica here and there, Deep Purple, stuff like that. My mom was like, Shania Twain and
Canadian pride right there.
Yeah, Shania Twain and Tim McGraw, just that whole song and dance. She was more into country. My grandfather was really the whole reason I even started doing music. He was a guitar player and a country singer when he was younger. So he would do, he'd do the bars and he'd go around and do all the runs like that. And then he started doing like gospel. So they would do like small church tours where they would go out for a couple weeks and do that. So it was really diverse, and with my dad listening to Beastie Boys and Shania Twain and Merle Haggard, and it was a little jumble of everything. Which I guess I don't think about it all the time, but it was probably one of the reasons why I felt so comfortable listening to all different styles of music, metal and rap and I used to love Mr. Bungle and stuff like that. There was no like set music that I was like, nope, only this. It was always everything. So yeah, I mean, I think probably just grandparents and mom and dad listening to all sorts of weird shit all over the place kind of gave me that flavor to jam whatever and not feel like, oh, I need to listen to this or I need to listen to that because my parents do. And yeah, so here I am.
Bungle rules. Still love them. Let's talk. I'm very interested having a grandfather that toured. Did it seem that when you wanted to become a musician that it was more realistic because you knew someone and someone in your family did it and you grew up knowing that he was out there doing this? It was like just a part of life. Oh, my grandfather's not here because he's on tour now.
For sure. He wasn't touring as much when I was, at least from what I remember, being really young. That's when he was out. And then, he was still play all the time though. And like my great grandfather, his father, he played violin, and my grandpa's two other brothers played harmonica and guitar. So they would all just sit around, have jam sessions. That's something I remember from a young age though, is everyone always having some instrument in their hands. Somebody always had something. And then my grandmother, she sang and played piano. So yeah, it was really, it wasn't like a weird thing for me to do the music route. It was always very natural. My very first band, I was probably 13 and I played bass. And to get I had like a Harkey 410 cab in the head and got an LTD bass. I was just super new metal and, had like spikes on it and shit. But the whole reason I was even able to buy that was my grandfather traded in one of his I want to say it was probably like a $2,000 Guild guitar. So he traded that in just to get me all of my equipment. So yeah, that's
super cool.
What
did he think of the music that you were playing?
We talked about this not that long ago, probably last week actually. we were playing like punk stuff. My first band was, but we were playing like Deftones and Tool covers, and then like MXPX and Rancid and Pennywise songs. Like we were all over the map, but it was just kind of a mix of what everyone in the band liked. And
which is
I remember,
what happens back then, right? It's a necessity. It's like, we need that guy, so we're gonna put up and play his shitty song that I don't like.
exactly. There's no other like drummer in a 2-hour radius. He has to be the guy. Yeah, right. So we just, we kind of just winged it. But I remember having that conversation with my grandpa, and he was like, "Well, what chord are you playing?" And I was like, "What's a chord?" I was like, "We don't play chords." He's like, "Yes, you do." I was like, "No, you don't understand. We do not play chords, Grandpa. Like, we just play the notes." So it was like, we talked about it, and with how far things have come since then, since being 13, and now I'm going to be 34, and I'm still doing music, and he's still just as supportive as he was back then. He'll still say to me, like, "So what chord is that new song in?" So it's great, man. It's very cool to have a very supportive family in the music way. Yeah, very cool.
That's incredible. The bass first, were you one of those people that fell into vocals because there was no extra person, or were you always interested in being a vocalist?
Initially, no, I really wasn't. Obviously I looked up to guys like the Fred Dursts and the Jack Grays and the Corey Taylors. Like, I loved, like, I'm early mid 30s, so like the heyday of nu metal was like right as the peak of me coming into my teens. So that's what I clung on to most and still do. So I always obviously thought like they were so sick and their vocals were so awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed playing bass. I enjoyed just having an instrument and learning. For me, I guess a lot of it was even just learning songs that I loved. Like that was the cool part, man. Is like being 13 and learning how to play a Rancid song on bass. It's like weeks and weeks and weeks of practice to get to where Matt Freeland? I can't remember his last name, but he was the sickest bass player, and it was really, really cool to like learn those songs. And as time went on, I kind of just got suckered into it. I had done backup vocals and bass, and the guys were like, "Hey, man, why don't you just scream for the band now?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And 15, 16 years later, here I am, still doing it.
Talk to me about harsh vocals. Was it harsh vocals first for you? Or
yes.
Was it singing, and then, or you were that backup guy that could do the harsh vocals?
Yeah, it was harsh vocals from the get-go. So just, no proper technique. And back then there definitely wasn't, the Melissa Crosses and stuff like that. So it was just trial and error. It was just beating the shit out of your voice and healing and realizing your limits and what you should and shouldn't do, and learning how to breathe better to get it there. But it took me a long time, man. I want to say, even for that first 3 years of being a vocalist for FTFD, from because I started doing vocals for them in 05 or end of 05 to the end of 08. And even then I didn't have the technique down. Like I was still blowing out my voice a lot on tour, because consistent shows after just every day, the gig. That was hard, man. So I remember being very frustrated with myself a lot of the time. And wondered, can I even do this? Like, am I even going to be able to pull this off? Do I got to kick the bass player out to go and play back and play bass? Like, how do I sell this?
He's drinking too much. He's missing his notes.
Yeah, just making
stash empty bottles in his bunk.
Yeah, man. Yeah, right. Yeah, but I figured out it was, and a lot of that. And I think this is a key thing. Obviously, you're breathing and all that stuff. Not learning is a big thing, but for me, it's the confidence. Once you are confident in who you are and your vocals and who you want to be, it makes it so much easier. Obviously, technique is just but that I think gets overlooked a lot of times when in a technique. You know what I mean? You almost have to believe that, yes, this is exactly how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna sound fucking great tonight. And that's a big contributor, I think.
It's all about voice. It's all about
I hope.
breath. It's all about air. It's all about control. We're just going to take one moment to pause because we've lagged a second and I want us to catch up to each other. Gods of the internet.
For sure.
Let me and Chad connect again.
Yes, here we go.
In the perfect internet connection.
It's going.
We got it.
I'm doing my, there we go.
Yeah. The gods of the internet are being nice to us.
All right. We're on to something here.
Technique. You mentioned a lot of amazing things. Melissa Cross, huge. I've been using her since 2006 or something.
Awesome.
I religiously warm up. I think it's a very important thing to be connected with your body. The confidence is a huge thing because there's so much going on with vocals. And if you're lost in your head of being self-doubt, of that dark spiral of self-doubt and worry and, oh, I fucked up, you're fucked for the night. So you need to be confident, trust in your technique, and try to stay in shape, which is hard to do in a pandemic, which makes me wonder, how have you been keeping in shape vocally during a pandemic?
So one of the things, I'd always tour prep. Sorry, I had to check my phone.
No worries.
So I would obviously, like everybody, I think, got a little lazy at some point during the pandemic. It was gyms were closed, right? So it was that perfect opportunity to just be like, oh, I can't go. And then everyone said it, like, oh, what am I going to do? The gyms are closed. But my fiance as well, she's very physically fit, so she was definitely keeping me on my toes. Like, you still need to make sure that you're staying in shape, because when this is all done and over with, it's going to be summer and you're going to be pissed off that you look awful. So,
and then it's going to be the dark void spiral on our body instead of our voice.
Exactly, my friend. So we got there. I was doing it, just at home. We have just lightweight, just calisthenics, and just even stretching now, just stretching and push-ups and sit-ups. Like, I mean, the guys in prison do it. Why can't you? Just sit-ups and push-ups inside. That's all you got to do, man. Just keeping your body tight and just doing something like that. Tour prep. I like to always. I always like to add sprints and cardio into my everyday workout routine, but I always up it at least a month out from a tour. I'll make sure that I'm literally I'm conditioning and doing full-on sprints at least 3 miles a day. It has to be done. Just again, your breathing is so important, and especially when you don't want to just stand there. So when you're putting on a show and you're running around and you're screaming and you're talking to the crowd, it's a lot of responsibility, and obviously as vocalists, everyone always makes fun. And so you guys don't have to load anything out, or you don't have to carry any gear. But when your voice is your instrument and the whole show depends on your voice, it's a lot of pressure. So to prep for that and making sure your breathing's right and you're physically in shape is definitely key. So again, I like to stay prepped in that way before tours. I've been at it pretty consistently for the past 3-4 months now. Not that I wasn't before that, but we had our slip ups, but it's getting back there.
That's good. I'd say I'm very lucky. I only realized recently that, because I'm a vegan, that you can Uber Eats vegan food. And I didn't realize the wide access of bad food that I could have in my house until about 3 weeks ago. Eternally grateful that discovery didn't happen at the beginning of the pandemic, because I would have eaten much worse things than I did.
I tell you what, man.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, vegan food has come such a long way in the past, even 5 years. Like you can literally get whatever, all the restraints from before 10-15 years ago, when everyone just, oh, you only eat falafel and grass. It's no, I literally can eat everything you eat, and it's better for me. So yeah, that's rad.
Let's talk about this new EP for Legend. You've dropped 2 singles so far. You've tried Psychedelic, Nightmare, and Spite. Now this is a project that you just every song just about you collaborate with different friends, different musicians. Talk to me a little bit about this. Talk to me a little bit about this. This is super fun, and I see this being something very liberating, because when you're collaborating with other people, you can basically do whatever the fuck you want. So talk to me about the freedom that you have doing Legend versus For the Fallen Dreams.
Yeah, man. You hit it right there. The freedom is very fulfilling to be able to just, as a vocalist, do whatever you want and push the boundaries of. I don't have to, like with For the Fallen Dreams. I can't. I mean, I can, but I can't just go nuts. Like there has to be a little more structure to it. Legend has always been my project that there were no restraints. I can do whatever I want. But even in the early years, we were still trying to lay the foundation for the band and make sure that we, it's sad to say, but to make sure that other people were happy with what we were putting out. Now it's such an open project, bringing in friends and so many different writers, guitar players and producers. It's hey, what do you want to do? I want to do a song like this. Okay, let's do that. Like there's no set schedule. There's no management. There's no label or anybody else telling us you can't do this. It's just getting back to the basics of when you first started writing music with your friends, of just doing whatever the hell you want to do. So it's really cool that this started, over 10 years ago now. That was, a touring band, and there was a full lineup. It's kind of just turned into like me doing songs with my friends that still gets put out on a good platform, and people are still listening. Everything song that's been released or is going to be released is a little bit different. It's all got its own twist. I've talked to a few of the guys, and they're like, well, do you want me to write it, make it sound like Legend? I was like, absolutely not. I want you to write whatever you want to write, and I'll make it work, and they'll just be under the Legend name. So it's none of it's too far off the beaten path, but everything's got its own little flavor, man. So it's been really fun. I've really enjoyed it, and all the guys were great, all friends, or guys that I've made friends with through it. So it's been a great ride so far, man. And we got 4 more singles to go.
Very exciting. Very, very exciting. And it is Legend no matter what the music is, because you are basically Legend.
Yeah. It's like a weird solo project at this point.
It's awesome. So. It's awesome. And how was it easier because of the pandemic? I know that I'm a part of like 5 to 7 pandemic projects, because we're all at home. We're eager to collaborate. We're eager to perform. We're eager to write music, to play music. Was it easier to get people that on board this time around, or to get them into this because of the pandemic?
Yeah, 100%. That was really kind of what sparked it. Like everyone had been sitting around at this point. It was only maybe for 4 to 5 months. So people were already itching that. Like everybody was just ready to go still. Everyone was like, because it was still very fresh of how long is this going to be? There's no way it's going to be a year or longer. Like everyone was still very certain. So we're like, okay. But yeah, getting everybody on board, everyone was just kind of itching for it. So we made it work. Aaron Chaparian, who still has a single on this song, we initially wrote an entire EP together, but I didn't, as time went on and the pandemic happened, I didn't want that to get lost in the mix of just dropping an EP. I knew it had to be something different. I knew that, not that I like reinvented the wheel of releases here, but there hasn't been a lot of deathcore, metalcore, grind, whatever you want to call it, that put out releases this way. So with all the friends that I have and guys who had just songs on deck that they wanted to use, it worked out really well to make it a special release. This is something that's really cool, and I'm glad it actually came together. We were able to do it. So
it's so exciting. It's just so freeing to just create whatever you want. I think it's awesome. Super awesome. I really, really, really like it. This is basically how you've been filling your void of not being able to perform. I normally ask this question that I fill my void by conducting these interviews. Before we connect, before I sit down, I feel like just about I'm going to jump on stage. So this is how you've been keeping yourself creatively busy, which is awesome.
For sure. And it's opened me up to just trying new things, even with not now taking that same mentality into some of the For the Fallen Dream stuff. It's crazy, man. It's crazy what that type of freedom will do for you artistically. I've in the 15 plus years that I've been doing this, I've never been as motivated as I am now. And it really took that pandemic mentality of everything that was going on and just pushing myself and being very happy with how the Legend release came out, that I was like, I still really love to do this. Like, I still thoroughly enjoy creating music. I love touring, but I 100% enjoy the creative process of recording more than that. I love the fans and the touring, and of course that's a huge part of it, but just creating is just so much fun, man. I love it.
I like the studio. I like being on stage more. I like hanging out afterwards, and of course drinking delicious craft beers with people. If you could make a Legend or a For the Fallen Dreams brew, a collab, what style of beer would it be? What excites you? Something that would represent Legend perfectly, and what would you call it?
Oh boy, it's a good one. You had me thinking here now. Okay, let's see. Well, you already know I'm a stout guy. Dark beer, so that fits the dark sound of Legend. So let's go with that. Let's go with the stout. A name. Let's see here. And what's crazy is I have so many title. Like, I have when I'm writing, I'll just put down really cool phrases that I think sound cool. Whatever, just one lines or one word.
It's the back print of t-shirt lines. It's those ones.
Yeah. So if I looked at my phone right now, I could probably find you the sickest name for a beer. But let's go with let's see. There's so many cool ones, especially craft, man. Yeah, like Dragon Smoke, like we said. Just all these badass fantasy names.
Stoutadelic Nightmare.
Dude, I'm not even gonna try to. There you go. Stoutadelic Nightmare. You did all the work for me.
I like coming up with beer names.
You need to copyright that. That's good.
What has been? No, I think we've covered actually. Let's dance into one last question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often because you're very in control. You don't dive too deeply into the evil of beer. You got into it pretty late because you were straight edge for a while. But what is your hangover cure?
Greasy ass food, and usually a Bloody Mary. I like Bloody Marys. Bloody Mary is a wine. No, it might not be very metal, but I love wine.
No, wine is super metal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Actually, you're right. Like, some goth vampire metal type shit. Some good wine. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. So probably the wine. Yeah.
I love it. Chad, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me, talking about your life, music, and craft beer. I really, really enjoyed this. I love connecting with other vocalists. It's always fun to dig into their mindsets about vocals. It's how Vox and Hops started. So I'm very stoked we got to connect. Everyone get ready for more Legend tracks. They're coming. I'm excited to hear them. Chad, thank you so much. Cheers.
Hey, appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, do I ever love having conversations with vocalists. This is really how the podcast began. I would always have chats with vocalists and ask them questions about their technique, questions about how they approach delivering vocals on stage, what their state of mind is, because it's something that I think a lot about. So I love having conversations with vocalists, and Chad is a sick vocalist, and I'm very happy that I had a chance to connect with him. Thank you, Chad, for taking the time to be with me. If you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXandHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened throughout the past week in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. So do me a favor, sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list because there's just so much going on. I would hate for you to miss a single thing. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media. I hope that you have a glorious weekend. I will be back next week with 2 episodes, one on Tuesday and another on Friday. But until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.